Alrighty, so we're going to have a look at the block and the block blunder or the flop instead of the block.
What happened this
Yeah, it
weekend?
was a bit of a disaster, and yeah, there's probably a few things that we would view as buyers agents a little bit differently to the overall you know the community that would normally watch these shows. But yeah, the main point that I sort of wanted to bring up in why I think one sold for way more than any of the others, $1 million more plus than any of the others, is probably because they chose a point of difference. Now the block, they already tried to do something different to what they normally do. Like they've been in Brighton, Hampton, St Kilda. I think they're back in Hampton this time around. And those areas that they're buying in, they're brownfield areas. Like they're all infill areas. So they're, buying 3, 4, 5 houses and then converting them into the block. There's a scarcity factor there. Out here, there's hundreds of acres. There's thousands of acres for people to go and do the same thing. And what they've done is they've put that thought into the buyers' heads. They've gone, hey, I can actually go and do this myself. Like I can go and do a block myself. I've got the money, I've got the design capabilities in terms of what I want to achieve. And yeah, why would I go and overpay at the block? Like, I think that's where they've really missed out this time.
Which makes a lot of sense. And I feel like a lot of the buyers that are purchasing in above a $4 million price bracket, they're most likely probably going to have a fairly minute style that they like. So they'll have very specific taste and preferences. And if it doesn't tick the boxes perfectly with what's been designed on the show, and they know now that they can sort of purchase a block, of land 10 minutes down the road, the exact same size, and it's going to be significantly cheaper, and then they can spend the money themselves and make it exactly what, like how they like it.
Yeah, I think that's again where they've put it in. They've gone to an area where there's limited buyers already, and then they're trying to create this thing which is giving limited options to those limited buyers. And if you haven't got that right, then they're going to go elsewhere. And I'll flick over to the screen and show um, what I've found. So this is the one that sold for a monster price, but then just down the road. And how big are these blocks? What do they got them at?
4 hectares.
These ones. Oh yeah, so
Yep.
10 acres. So they're decent sized blocks. But this is 110 acres, so it's 100 acres bigger, and it's pretty similar. I know the houses isn't as big, but this is a new build. Looks like a Porter Davis build. It's on a lake. It's got a tennis court. It's got the basketball court, all of that kind of stuff. Spending another $100,000 on a pool there is not really that big a deal if you're already spending, sort of that 4 million mark. But this thing is for sale for 3.85. You know, pretty. It does look like actually a Porter Davis house. But that's what 3.8 million buys you when compared to the block, 5.6. I know that was the record, and then this other one sold for 4.1. So this was the one that everyone was thinking they're going to be the favorites, and there's heaps of news articles about those guys getting favoritism and more airtime and all this kind of stuff. But what where again the block differs from reality is it's got, I don't want to say, outdated people on the show, but the three stylists who they've got in there, it's always about on trend, like what's on trend, storage, Shayna Blaze, all this kind of stuff, and what's on trend. But sometimes on trend doesn't mean that the majority of people like it. And what's on trend at the moment is obvious that not that many people like it. So it's really, they've pigeonholed themselves, and that's one of the main differences that we'll go through and what you can see between the two houses. So I haven't got all of the houses here. I've just picked the two. So the one who were the favorites and then the winners. So it's got a pool, all that kind of stuff. This room's actually quite nice. I've seen these wood fire heaters. They're pretty cool. sort of just sitting in there. But then the kitchen, you go to the kitchen. If you're looking from the bottom upwards, like if you're coming up through that photo, floors are really nice. The bench top's actually really nice. And then you've got, these shaker doors. And then, it's probably a 20 plus $1,000 stovetop, maybe, $30,000 stovetop. But that to me is something that could be dated really quickly. And someone that's buying that type of house could come in and just rip it out straight away. And because they don't even like it and they just chuck it in the bin. Um, that, yeah, to me is absolute statement, but that's not sort of where it gets me. It's more, the kitchen's good. It's more this kind of stuff. Like, yes, it's paint, but it's an in between of what they're trying to achieve. Because then you flick over to this, and it's super modern. So I just don't think the execution's good. The bathroom now, that's something if you don't like, you're going to have to rip out. Like you can't really do too much with that. Resurfacing never feels as good. So you would have to pretty much redo that whole bathroom. The shower and all of that's not bad, but it's more the bathtub. Um, and these are all recreated, right? Like they're not original things. I believe that they were trying to go for something like the Langham. They were trying to go for that ornate, high end, super luxurious type build, but they just haven't executed as well. I really don't think they've executed as well as they could, and as well as what the judges sort of made out to be. They were doing these show-stopping rooms. There's nothing show-stopping about that bathroom. Like, yeah, it's got again on trend with having a different colored sink. Like that's the on trend thing, but the on trend goes out the door really, really quickly. Same as that. Another major thing that I sort of and then you flick over to the boys' house, like the boys, and they've built a house for the boys, like literally bowling. Putting green. You just even look at this photo compared to the other photos Hero shot. It's enormous. It's got the setting of the hill in the back there. It's just showing the overall span and the generous proportions of that particular house. And the pool, like a massive pool. The colors in here are probably a bit darker and gloomy, and that more sophisticated nature, as you were saying before, Tristan. And it doesn't have that closed, I don't know, appeal to it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm.
not closing a lot of people out. You
Well, I
probably
think that what both of them did is they both took separate risks, right? I think with the other house, which profited $20,000, it seems that the risk that they've taken is going for a sort of luxurious farm family appeal, and like having things like the pink room in the bedroom and sort of just the overall design of it. It wouldn't. It sort of looks like a family home that maybe they're trying to appeal to a market where someone wants to go and have kids there, or it's the weekend or whatever it is. Whereas this is something very different. This is something that you can bring anyone over to. It doesn't exactly pigeonhole you into having like a sort of family look, or like it could very much be the boys' house, or like a party location. It's an entertainer's style. That's sort of the modern, sophisticated appeal that it goes for. And I think that overall has just paid off for them. It might be a risk because you might be turning away families a little bit, but overall, I think that they've absolutely nailed this.
yeah. In terms of you know suiting a market, these guys have definitely opened the door for it to be anyone. Um, and yeah, being more sophisticated and dark and gloomy and things like that does sort of resonate with the types of buyers who would be looking up here. I know when we bought a place in Heskett for an investment banker. So he lived in the city and he was pretty, just wanting to get out of town to go to his place up in Heskett, which was on 10 acres, and just chill out. But I would, assume that this type of buyer would be very similar to that, and they like these dark and sort of gloomy places, which are just they're cool, like they're cool spaces. They're not, they don't have that sort of, I guess, family sort of attachment to them, where it is, yeah, it's just pigeonholed them and it's so narrow. Like you have to love that other house to really to want to buy it. Where this one, it's just, yeah, it's super cool, and I think that's the main difference. They've done so everything that they've done in this house is very different to the other homes. The other ones are pretty similar to the guys that were winning all the challenges, because yeah, they were suited, as you said before, mate, were that they were chasing that family oriented place. Now, another thing was the way that the properties were presented. For me, there's some key differentiators between them. This has got 47 photos, and the other one they've only got 26. And a massive, like a major item for me is the floor plan. So you look at this floor plan, I can't even see it. Like I literally can't even see what that says on there. It says media room, but I can just make it out and I can't see the measurements. And then you go to this one, so two things, they've got an actual site plan. So you're buying a 10-acre property and you want to see what you're actually buying. I don't think this would be the whole 10 acres. This is like a portion of it, to show you roughly where all the living spaces are, like all the activity and what they've actually built. But then when you go to the floor plan, it has, you can see it. I can read all of that. Bedroom, home office, 7.8 by 8, 4-car garage, workshop. So if you're an international buyer or, you're having to travel to it, if I was flicking through all of these, I would probably be more attracted to the one that I could read and I can get more involved in on the desktop, rather than
Mm.
something that hasn't been presented that well to me, just to go, meh, like I can't really read that. So this one kind of looks better. I can see a really cool floor plan and site plan. I've probably got more interest in this one. So that's like a massive letdown. And to have 47 photos, the 21 more photos on their property. Yeah, I don't know how that's occurred. Well, like why the block would ever let that sort of happen, but they're major differentiators for me. Um,
And because on that as well, like the buyer that you're trying to attract, right? Like they probably don't already live in Gisborne and they're trying to upgrade their home. They're probably maybe like an interstate, or they're coming from the city, or they're coming from the suburbs, whatever it is. So you definitely want to be able to showcase that digitally the best that you can, because maybe they weren't even able to get to the property. They were just relying on the videos and the marketing
yeah,
and the show
100%.
potentially as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And another thing, so I did a little bit of reading on this auction. This is it. First bid was below the range. This one's over the range by 420,000. So everyone's like going berserk. So, but this guy here, so the auctioneer, this guy here, Tom Panos, that's a really good shot of him as I've stopped it.
Yep.
Now he's a marketing genius, and he's one of the heads of News Corp. So you got to be a little bit careful with what this guy says in the media. But what he does do really well is understand the real estate market and what's going on, because he trains real estate agents and he's also an auctioneer, obviously. But what he did here, and I don't know if anyone else did it, I know he's voiced it. So whether or not he's just pitching himself as what he did, but he went and got the buyers through the property privately before the auction. I don't know if it was the day before or on the day of the auction, but it was very close to when the auction was happening. And it was a private open that he was taking the buyers through, telling them, the last little bits and pieces about the property, and then also what they needed to do to buy it and how strongly they needed to bid to buy it, because there was other people involved. And what that does is put them in the VIP basket. Like everyone wants to be, yeah, they want to be part of something. They want to be part of a little group. And if they've got this little exclusive group of buyers that is now a VIP, that could just create that extra emotion that's going to, make them spend even more money. And I think it's absolutely brilliant, because you can imagine a buyer that's going through a property, and just say it's a normal campaign and there's 20 people that go through every single week, and over the 4 weeks, that's 80 to 100 people. And then you've got the two buyers that are interested, and you get a call. So you're one of those buyers. You get a call from the agent and say, "Hey, I'm going to have an open tomorrow night. Come through the property. I'll have a bottle of champagne there. You and your partner or whoever's can come. Your mum and dad can come and just sit in the property for half an hour, 45 minutes if you like, and just go through it. You're one of only other bidders, or one of the other buyers that have the option or have said that they're actually going to put forward a bid at auction." And you could imagine the emotion that would create. This person that might not have even been, they've confirmed that they're a bidder, but they might turn up and they had 1.5 to spend and they end up spending 1.6 because they've just fallen in love with it. That,
I think this is a genius idea,
yeah,
because
it's so
if
clever.
you often hear like, oh, you never know what can happen at an auction, and it's obviously a lot of the time it's due to an emotional reason.
Yeah,
And one of the best ways to get someone emotionally involved in property is allowing them to spend more time. And if you're inviting them there and they get to sit maybe for an hour, just have drinks, and they're just sitting in the lounge room having drinks, they're potentially just talking to the agent. Doesn't have to be talking anything about the house or auction day. It's just getting them emotionally involved and falling in love with the property even more. Maybe they're just looking out the window at the view and imagining themselves and the family looking at that view in a week's time or like after settlement. I think that it's just such a clever idea. And if that was one of the reasons, because what I also heard that Adrian, who was one of the members that did bid on the house, he initially said he was only going to spend 4.5, and he ended up bidding up until over 5 million. So maybe, it could be a few little things like that that, push someone up and over the edge. I think it was brilliant play from Tom Panos.
yeah, like that's it. If he's done it unknowingly and he's realized that, like, how good it is, still good on him. Like, he's definitely done something right there. I don't know if it would equate for the amount that it's gone over, but at least he's got that emotional attachment, and he's built that in, sort of. He's definitely secured that emotion in the buyers that were there. So, that's a quick run through on how we view the block. Again, it's not reality at all. The type of auction is very different to what you would ever have in the real world. Even the way that the reserves work and all that stuff, like, these guys just pulled it off the market because they wanted it to pass in some of the other properties. And then just all the hype on there. But this, Danny Wallace, I think it's a cheap PR stunt for him as well, because he can get in there, he can pay, $1 million over the reserve, and if he goes and sells this thing for 4 million, he's paid $1 million to be on a huge show like the block, and have thousands and thousands of people asking who he is and just putting eyes on him and his business. So yeah, it could just be a big PR stunt as well. So yeah, it's why these things can't really be taken into like real light. You would never go and compare this sale to another sale in Gisborne, or that area as a comparable. Like, they're just not.
It has absolutely zero relevance because it's a TV show.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
it is.
Danny even came out and made a statement over the weekend and said, look, he knows that he overpaid on that property.
Yeah,
But he's like, oh, I overpaid on the first one by a lot. And then he reckons that he underpaid on the other two. So it all evens out.
it
But yeah,
evens out. And then and then three. He's bought 3 out of 5. Like, what's the show's hope of being successful if he wasn't in the picture? So, like, there's that aspect of it as well. So, I know the show's really fallen off the mark over the last couple of years, and people, there's as many people that hate it that watch it now, and it's definitely getting that way. So there needs to be a new one, I reckon, a new type of block, and needs to be some new buyers agents on there and a refresh. I reckon it's just all getting a bit dated for me. But yeah, I haven't watched it for a fair few years. I know they've got to produce and get really good TV with the type of people that are on there, but it's got nothing to do really about the properties that they deliver. There's a couple of cool rooms and things like that they do in the end, but it's all about the controversy. Like, it's all built the controversy that goes on through it. But anyway, we'll cut it off there. It was good to have a chat with you on that one, mate. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.
So, guys.